algebra students, welcome to Algebra Chapter 8, Section 6. This is the note template you should have in front of you. A piece of blank paper would work fine if you don't have that, because we're just going to be working out some examples here. We will also be working from about page 518 in your book, and this would actually be a lesson where I would recommend that you have your book with you because it's a confusing one. It's going to take you some time and work to get this down, and just expect that up front, as we have quite a bit to understand here, and we're just going to do it through working it out. So what we're doing is we're factoring here. All right, we're factoring, and the problem with these questions is this number right here, this a value, the number times x squared, the coefficient, is not going to equal 1. It's going to be another number, and that poses a bit of a more challenging problem for us. So first example I'd like you to write down. I'm just going to try to talk you through it. We'll do several examples here, and hopefully by class time we'll be able to work through them together and eventually on your own. We're going to factor 5x squared plus 11x plus 2. And recall, we're trying to create two binomials here that multiply back to this simplified product here. Okay, so I'm just going to talk you through what to do here. So first of all, realize when we talk about a quadratic equation, we're talking about the form equations in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, and make sure you get everything down in your notes today here. Okay, so we need to identify first of all that we're going to call a the coefficient of x squared, b the coefficient of x, and c is the constant. All right, well, the first thing we can do, step one, there's a trick here. If you take a times c, okay, and figure out what that equals, we're going to go a times c, which in this case is equal to 10, right? Because we have 5 and 2, so it's 5 times 2 is 10. So that's step one. I didn't write the 1 in there. Step one, multiply a times c and get 10. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to list the factors of a times c. So we're going to list the factors, which in this case would be 10. And then we want to know which pair of factors sum to whatever b is. And b is that 11, which sum to, in this case, 11. So we want factors of 10 that sum to 11. Well, one way to multiply to get 10 is 5 times 2. But if I add 5 plus 2, 5 plus 2 is equal to 7. All right, so it multiplies to 10, but it equals to 7. So that's not it. Okay, so sad face. That's not my answer. The other option I have is 1 times 10. And if I add 1 plus 10, I get 11. Okay, so this is what I need to begin this problem. I need to know that 1 and 10 are factors of 10 that sum to 11. So I'm going to do something strange here. I'm going to take this 11 and I'm going to split it out into these two factors, 1 and 10, because I know that it multiplies back to 10. All right, and it adds to 11. So here's what you do. Right underneath the problem, we're going to copy down the question right underneath. This is really important that you keep your work organized just like I do in the video. I'm going to split this 11 into 1x and 10x. Now notice what I have here. 1x and 10x is still 11x, so this is really the same thing here. Okay. Now I also still have this plus 2. Now this problem is example 1, by the way, on page 518 in your book. If you need to refer to that, and you'll probably want to look at it later. All right, I expand that out like this. Now, here is where something strange happens for you. What we're going to do now is we are going to look at this. We're going to kind of group these first two terms, and we're going to group these second two terms. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor just these two terms, just like it's the only thing on the page. Okay, so if you look at 5x squared and 1x, there's a common factor of x. So I'm going to write that like this: x times 5x plus 1. Bring down this plus sign right here. Now I'm also going to factor this 10x plus 2. Now that has a common factor of 5. So that's a 5, and that is, if I divide out a 5 here, 10 divided by 5 is I'm sorry, that's not right, is it? It's got a common factor of 2. Sorry about that. Let me fix that here for you. It's got a common factor of 2. I was doing the multiplication a little ahead of myself here. 10 divided by 2 is 5x plus 2 divided by 2 is 1. So now I have this. Now if we look carefully at this line, notice that we have a plus sign right here, and around that plus sign, notice I have this 5x plus 1 and this 5x plus 1. So what you could think of, you can think of this as one term and this as one term. And between those two terms, there's a common factor of 5x plus 1. You see it? In this term right here and this term right here, 5x plus 1 is a factor of both of those. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to divide out that common factor of 5x plus 1. So I'm going to divide by 5x plus 1. Now look what happens here. I'll use red here to show you that these two factors cancel out and these two factors cancel out like that. So here's what we're left with. Remember when we would divide out a common factor from a term, we would write it up front. 5x plus 1 goes here. That's the common factor, CF, common factor, or the greatest common factor really. So that cancels out, and look what I'm left with. I'm left with x plus 2. So it's times x plus 2. So really all I did here was I divided out a common factor of 5x plus 1, divided that out, and I'm left with x plus 2. And this is the answer. Now I know that should be a little bit foreign to you, and it's okay if you're a little bit confused. It takes a lot of practice and repetition, but you have to just keep trying to do it. Now what I would like you to do is to check this. When you're doing factoring, you have got to check your answers as you go along, and I'm going to do that right now. If I can get a little bit more room on my page here. There we go. I'm going to check this by multiplying this back. 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times 2 is 10x. 1 times x is 1x. 1 times 2 is 2. These are like terms, so that's 11x plus 2 plus 5x squared. Now I'm going to look back and make sure that that is what I start. 5x squared plus 11x plus 2. You see it right there. So I'm happy that this is the answer. Okay, that's 8 minutes there. I won't have time to do the next question, so this is going to take us several videos. It should go a little bit faster. Replay that if you want to look at it again, or just move on to the next problem, and we'll get that done here shortly.